I think we're always going to want to physically, visit new places, interact in person with people. I don't think that's going to change.
As WiT marks its 20th year in 2025, we turn the spotlight on our community to tell their stories and share their views on the evolution of online travel and technology. Conversations on Turning 20 is the collective story of WiT. As a Chinese saying goes, 以古为鉴，可以知兴替. By using history as a mirror, one can understand the rise and fall of things.
In terms of Uyghur's journey, we started in 2005, and we're inspired by the metas getting set up in the US and in China, and we thought somebody should bring that to the rest of Asia. I'd been running product and engineering for Yahoo in Southeast Asia, based in Singapore, and I saw all the low-cost carriers getting set up in the region, and there was no way to sort of shop them all at once, and it was kind of becoming annoying. So there's as much scratching an itch as pursuing a business opportunity when we decided to sort of focus on Southeast Asia initially. We quickly not that quickly, actually. It took us a few years to realize that the market really wasn't ready for it. To make a meta model work, you need OTAs that know what they're doing, operating at scale, and that really wasn't the case in Southeast Asia at the time. And so we sort of had a choice. We could either become an OTA in our own right, or we could pivot and find a geography that was ready for our meta search marketplace business model. And we took the latter path. I would note our friends at Traveloka in Indonesia, they got started around the same time, and they sort of also did a pivot from meta, but they sort of pivoted the model to OTA early on for the same reasons. So we pivoted to the Middle East after, I think, 4 or 5 years. And the reason for that, we sort of realized, after, localizing the platform, we saw the Middle East points of sale and the Arabic language specifically, really take off. And we realized the market was basically wide open. There was some really large suppliers who had their act together with e-commerce, but apart from Booking.com, there was nobody else really in the region. So we sort of walked into a largely vacant space and proceeded to connect everybody who was selling online. Another reason we pivoted, customer acquisition costs in the Middle East at the time were comparable to what we're seeing in Southeast Asia, but the LTV, lifetime value, was many, many times higher. It was a function of higher average basket values, higher frequencies, larger families. So to put the two together, and it just made for a much better, better market for our model at the time. COVID was a bit of a near-death experience for Uyghur. We, like a lot of travel companies, over the space of 2 weeks, we saw our revenues drop to almost nothing, and flatlined for about 6 months, and then only very, very slowly come back. I had to go and talk to some of the family offices and sort of high net worth individuals in the Gulf that know us well, and we raised a quick round, which enabled us to keep the Uyghur team that we'd spent a decade assembling, keep it largely together. And rather than sort of decimating the team away, a lot of travel companies did during COVID, and hibernate, we put together a pretty aggressive product roadmap, put our heads down, and sort of built stuff all the way through COVID. And when travel resumed, we were able to launch a bunch of new stuff, which is driving a lot of the very high levels of growth we're seeing at the moment. The other thing we did during COVID, which was maybe a little bit different, like everybody else, we zeroed out the paid marketing budget, but we kept the foot to the floor with the earned media. So we kept social media going flat out. We kept our content marketing going flat out. pivoted a little bit from sort of inspirational, destination-focused content to practical, how do I navigate the world during COVID? And we also kept the PR machine going all the way through. So since we first started, we've significantly diversified our business model. We started with a simple meta business. We built a fairly sophisticated advertising and media business on top of that, with tourism boards and airlines as our principal clients. We obviously run ads on Wigo, but we also follow them across YouTube and TikTok and Meta. We are a merchant in our own right for a increasing percentage of the GMV coming off the marketplace. That's a lot of the work we did during COVID, building the stack for that. So everything from payments to supply to pricing, customer support. We acquired a corporate travel platform about 18 months ago. Travel Stop have integrated that into Wigo, so integrated our supply, mashed the platforms together, and we've rebranded it as Wigo Pro, and that's growing extremely fast at the moment. So basically taking the best ideas out of the next gen business travel platforms like Navan, Travel Perk, adding some of our own touches, and sort of with Asia and the Middle East as the sort of the target markets. And the last new business that we're investing in is our bed bank. So Wigo Beds. So we're aiming to contract directly every hotel in the Middle East that's doing any significant volume with us. And my co-founder Craig is sort of running that, and we're a good way into that now, and we're in the process of connecting up our global demand partners who want better supply in the Middle East. No, I mean, we could have done it in Southeast Asia soon, and Travelodge could do it, right? So they pivoted from Meta to OTA. I think at the time we didn't really know enough about it to feel confident about weighing into that. I think with the benefit of hindsight, we would have figured it out, and we probably should have done it. But, we've built a pretty big successful business, by pivoting geographically instead of pivoting the model initially. Southeast Asia for us is a few different things. So, we've got large teams in Singapore, in Kuala Lumpur, in Jakarta, in Ho Chi Minh City, and Hanoi. So there's a lot of talented people, across Southeast Asia sort of working on Wigo, and sort of Singapore is our, one of our dual headquarters, and it's sort of where we have our, our product engineering, data science, leadership, and, the other teams across Southeast Asia sort of, integrated into that. So it's a pool of talent that we tap into. Southeast Asia is markets. So for our corporate business, it's quite important. Like, we've signed up a lot of the tech companies, startups, all the way to scale ups across Southeast Asia who are using Wigo Pro now. In terms of markets for the B2C business, Malaysia and Indonesia are both significant for us, and it's partially because of the connectivity back to the Middle East. So we're sending a lot of people in both directions, and often working with tourism boards on both sides to send travelers in both directions. So what's exciting about the online travel story right now, or actually technology generally, is sort of the AI wave that's sort of sweeping through the world generally. So it's it's an incredibly powerful new set of tooling we've got to build stuff that didn't exist or wasn't easily accessible just 2.5 years ago. So the product and engineering teams at Wigo are extremely excited about the uses we can put it to, and the stuff that we're now able to build. And the speed with which we're able to build it, frankly. So we've seen some significant, productivity boosts, particularly across engineering, just through the AI-assisted coding features that are just getting better and better on an almost weekly basis at the moment. So giving our engineers superpowers. Spending a lot of time automating a lot of the manual customer service work at the moment. The objective by the end of this year is to have at least 80% of user queries handled automatically, with high degrees of satisfaction from users. And the AI gives us the capability to do that. And then more generally, it's the year of efficiency at WeGo, and we're sort of automating everything we can across all of the departments, all of the teams. Some of that we're doing with good old-fashioned, process automation, but a lot of it through some of the, AI capabilities that are now possible. And then there's the sort of AI and, the extra layer of intelligence we want to add across all of the surfaces, across all of our products. Yeah, that's a good question. Look, I think people are expecting their applications to just be smarter. So to read between the lines a bit more clearly, if you like, than they did a few years ago, to be less fragile, to be able to fill in the blanks, to interject intelligently when they can offer something that might be useful. To save you some of the manual work that you would have to previously do yourself. And this can take lots of different shapes and forms, and we haven't figured out all exactly how all this should work from a UI perspective yet. We're playing around with a few different ideas, and some of the new user interface, user interaction paradigms are still being defined, and it probably won't be the travel category which defines them. It'll be the more frequent use cases, and I think some of the LLM powered apps, they're evolving pretty rapidly, and I think sort of studying what they're doing in terms of user interface and then trying to figure out how to retrofit some of these things into our own apps, our own website. We want to sell more stuff as customers, as travelers. We want to buy stuff, but we want to do it with as little friction as possible. It's got to be as easy as possible. It's got to be, as relevant. We want it as timely as possible. And sort of figuring out the intersection of those two, all those things, I think is sort of where the magic happens, right? So, I think there's nothing wrong with, merchandising, additional travel products, if it's something the user actually wants, right? And you make it easy. So if you're, you're flying to Penang, and the day before your trip, we, offer you one, send you a push with a transfer preloaded with a price. Would you like somebody to pick you up, take you to the airport, pick you up at the airport in Penang, take you to your hotel? We can make that very, very easy for you. I mean, for the industry generally, I think the last 20 years have been largely about, I sort of think of it as sort of wood chopping, right? So doing a lot of the basics, putting in place doing the hard work to integrate all of the supply, and figuring out all the different payment mechanisms, figuring out the rewards mechanics, price. I think the next 20 is going to be a lot more personalized, a lot more about the user, a lot more, applying, extra layers of intelligence, at just the right moment. So last night I spent, I was in Riyadh. I left the city about 4:00 to get a flight at 8. It's Thursday, so it's the end of the weekend. There was a massive traffic jam to get to the airport. The airport was relatively crowded. Took 2 hours to, get to Dubai, and then it took another half an hour to get out of DXB, and had to queue up for taxis to get into town. And I reckon the whole thing took about 7 hours. So by 2045, there should be high-speed rail right around the Gulf, from Oman up to the UAE, across the UAE, connecting Bahrain and Kuwait and Qatar, across the desert to Riyadh. Exactly what's happened in Japan with the the original bullet trains and the next generation of sort of like 500, 600 kilometer an hour maglev trains. The Gulf desperately needs those, and I think people underestimate how much it's going to revolutionize life here. Just like taking the drudgery out of getting from city to city. So I see that as a key part of the travel in the future. I think we're all going to have very personalized agents that help us out with different aspects of our life. That'll have all of your payment credentials in the cloud. It'll have all of your travel preferences. It'll have access to your schedule, and I think it's going to be a relatively be like working with a very, very good assistant to book your travel and plan your travel. So instead of always having to qualify exactly what you want, a lot of it will be a lot of the preferences and choices will be remembered or implied, and if there's any anything that's ambiguous, they'll be quickly qualified. You'll be able to access it by multiple modes. If you want to talk to it, have it talk to you, that'll be fine. If you want to talk to it, use your phone or tablet to take advantage of a rich interface, that'll be fine. And you'll be able to sort of mix and match them. Like at the moment, it's all very very mono. So you want to chat, you're limited to a sort of a text-based interface, which is actually subtracting value from the rich interfaces we've all spent time building. So I think they'll come together relatively quickly. And we're doing a lot of work on that. I think 2045, most borders will be relatively friction-free. Like leaving Riyadh last night, auto gates just magically worked for the first time without me even having to register, So I think more things like that. I think by 2045, we'll definitely have, point-to-point rocket, like SpaceX or somebody else doing, point-to-point transportation for passengers. So, Dubai to Los Angeles in 45, 50 minutes. I think because of the amount of area required, that the spaceports are going to have to either be significantly far away from the city or off the coast. So there'll be a fair bit of time and extra time it'll take to actually get to your launch pads. So it won't be as convenient as high-speed rail that drops you from the one city hub to the next city hub, but they're going to obviously save you a hell of a lot of time in between. I think we're always going to want to physically visit new places, interact in person with people. I don't think that's going to change. I think technology will always sort of augment. I don't think and it may. I think like the internet generally, the internet has opened up the world for people, and it sort of certainly hasn't. I think it's only enhanced their desire to go out and actually interact and see the world. It's opened their eyes. It's fueled their travel hunger.